I have heard that somewhere around 1620 is when the first Gears arrived on American soil. And those Gears were a couple of brothers. And I don't know their names, but apparently they were indentured servants that apparently came over here on one of the first colonization ships. I do not know the details exactly, but apparently one of them had children.
Yeah.
But I don't know any details about them. It's actually interesting story about how I heard about them. There was actually a gentleman on YouTube. His name was Bob Gear, and I found him by just searching the last name Gear, and started up a conversation with him, and he basically invited me to the Gear family reunion that happens every year somewhere back east. And he said, if your last name is Gear, then we are related because we come from a pair of Gear brothers that came over here in 1620. Well, the Gear family is incredibly intelligent people. We've done nothing but help other people. We've been involved strategically when it comes to the security and safety of this nation. We single-handedly invented every single bomb that we've ever delivered across the seas. And on top of that, we've been the advisor to every single president.
Awesome.
Well, the origins of the name Gear, I believe, are English, but I actually don't have any proof of anything either way. I've just heard from my father that it is from England, but apparently there's Dutch and German as well. But as far as we're concerned, it's from England. The only family crest that I have seen was actually many, many years ago, and I can't recall it exactly, but I know that there was a knight's helmet. There was some flare around the helmet. There was the square in the middle, and I think the colors may have been red or red and blue. And I think that the panel in the center of the crest was divided into 4 squares, and I think the opposite corners were the same image, and the opposite corners were the same image, but I can't remember exactly what that image was. The eldest Gear that I can recall is actually my grandfather, although I have a faint memory of my great-grandfather, which would be my dad's dad's dad. And his name was Clarence, although he passed away when I was extremely young, probably about 3 years old. So I'm not sure I really remember him, but I remember seeing photographs of him. Previous to Clarence, though, even though I didn't know him, was a Gear by the name of George Washington Gear. So I doubt he was related to George Washington, but his name was George Washington Gear. They kept getting him confused, and they kept throwing cherry trees at him and stuff, and he just kept saying, "What the hell's this all about?" I've done some searching on the Gear name in the past, and only this Bob Gear that I mentioned had any information for me other than just, "I don't know who you are." So he said, apparently, he believes that everybody in the U.S. that is a Gear is related, going back, several hundred years. As far as research on the internet goes and what that can produce as far as factual information or heritage information, I'm not entirely sure. There's an awful lot of stuff on the internet that's inaccurate, so it's hard to say. I've heard of someone named Ira W. Gear who copyrighted some sort of weather equipment, but I can't say that I've ever heard of him from the perspective of my family. As I understand it, several generations ago there was an ancestor of mine by the name of Timothy Gear, and apparently he died in a car accident, which I just found out about this a couple of days ago when researching this heritage project for my son Daniel. And so I think that's kind of interesting. And if you think about 3 or 4 generations ago, that's going to be 80 some years ago, and that's going to be in the 1930s. So somewhere about the beginning of the automobile revolution in the 30s or 20s or 40s, somewhere in there, my ancestor was killed in a car accident. I thought that was kind of strange when I heard that. Until all the research is actually completed, I'm not sure who are the children of Timothy Gear. At this point, I just know that the most notable thing was that Timothy Gear passed away from a car accident. An interesting part of the name Gear is that it is constantly being misspelled or mispronounced or slaughtered in some way. So Gear itself, it's much easier for folks who are not Gears to want to say Greer. It's the most common one. Quite often we get Greer. We get Gear if someone actually understands that we're saying Gear. And one time I was actually asked if Richard Gere was my brother, to which I said yes, even though he's not.